Breakwater, Wolf peered down iron sights, ignoring the data feed from his tactical helm. There was no need for auspex or predictive telemetry. Not here. This wasn't a battle of angles or strategy. It was a battle of mass, bodies uprange, bolts downrange. His pistol barked again, the bolt round smashing through the neck of a thing that had once been human. He stepped forward and brought his power blade across its torso in a sweeping arc, cleaving from skull to sternum. It dropped, but the remains didn't stop. The head, somehow still aware, dragged itself forward on one arm, spine trailing, legs and torso left behind like discarded shell casing. Wolf calmly lowered his bolt pistol and fired a single shot. It stopped moving. He looked up. More were coming, flowing like sewage around the broken Arbite's wagon that had become a makeshift barricade. The bridge was narrow, but not narrow enough. They would be flanked within moments. He moved without thinking. He leapt atop the wagon, boots slamming down, metal creaking under his armored weight. "Godric!" he shouted over the noise of the moaning horde. "I need a windbreak!" Toonbald, standing beside Phexion, Braylon, Winthrop, and Dornstall in their half-formed redoubt, paused to reload, then sent a stream of single-bolt shots into the press of bodies across the bridge, clearing the way for the lumbering giant behind him. He gave a signal. Godric came. Cuthhelm stepped forward, thrusting his force stave, and unleashed a burst of witch flame into the left-hand gap. The blue fire swallowed the lead infected, who burned but did not fall. He followed it with precise bolt pistol shots, targeting the still-moving ones whose brains horrifyingly remained intact through the fire. One staggered forward, arms burned to blackened stumps, yet still walking, a barbed spine stinger whipping out from its back. Cuthhelm parried the appendage with a sharp twist of his stave, severing it cleanly. The path was clear. Then the sound of thunder. Godric. The dreadnought strode into the breach, crushing the last few infected in the left-hand lane beneath his plated bulk. His massive frame locked into position beside the overturned wagon, his power claw clamped onto the barricade's edge as an anchor. In his other hand, the dreadnought hammer rose and fell. Each swing crushed two, sometimes three of the oncoming monsters, a single armored god among corpses. From his height, he surveyed the river of bodies still pouring from the Sanctum Medicae Trinova. "I can hold," Godric's vox growled, "but we do not have the men." The wagon groaned. Wolf readjusted his stance as the full force of the horde struck the makeshift wall. From below came a cry, "Fag word!" Osric slammed his pauldron into the side of the barricade, his mechadendrites reaching out to affix stabilizing bolts into the bridge's cracked roadway. Each thunk of driven steel reinforced the line. Then he stepped back, his bolter already raised. The horde surged now toward the right flank of the barricade, but Wolf dropped into the gap, boots crunching gravel and bone, his power blade cutting into the mass. Not a crowd anymore, but a single-minded organism of teeth, stingers, claws, and hunger. "Geofon Hālgengas!" he roared. The wave blessed had come. Cuthhelm moved to his side, witch flame leaping again. Osric joined him with a wordless nod, and behind them Tunbald charged up, planted his feet, and opened fire. Bolt, witchfire, plasma, the Void Revenants carved their line, and the bridge held. Sergeant Winthrop handed a battered tin flask to Dornstall, who took it in trembling hands. Together, they watched the angels of the Emperor, storm-blue Astartes with skulls wreathed in ethereal green on their pauldrons, methodically retake the shattered barricade with just 5 warriors. "Thought they were chaos for a minute," Dornstall said, taking a swig. Winthrop gave a slow nod, reclaiming the flask and emptying it. "About time something went our way." Nearby, Alpha Braylon helped Calculus Logi Phexion to his feet, his gait unsteady, limbs half-mended and augmetics still sparking. She gave a dry laugh. "From a Mechanicus to an Arbites, if the Astartes show up, it means things have gone very wrong." Winthrop looked down at a twitching infected body near his boots. Its third arm, protruding from its spine, spasmed and sprayed black ichor from a severed joint. "You can say that again." He raised his pistol to put the creature down, but a massive black boot slammed down on its skull instead. Winthrop looked up. A towering figure in black power armor, face hidden behind a skull-faced helm, stood before him. A Crozius Arcanum gleamed in one hand, the green lenses in his helm glowing faintly. Archmagos Sensorax Centauri graciously requested aid from NihtWyrtha, the giant intoned, voice deep and rasping. The Void Revenants respond, I am Scop Wolfgar, at your service. Braylon snapped a Wigathane salute. Phexion gave a wave with his unburned hand. Dornstall looked up in sheer terror. Winthrop straightened his jacket and stood tall, offering the Aquila. Lord, we've met before. Wolfgar tilted his helm slightly, analyzing the soot-covered man. Indeed, Grimness 7th, 3rd Armored Brigade, you pulled me from a burning tank. Wolfgar paused, the memory surfacing, the Second Battle of Suthihill during the Orc War. A gunner in gray overalls, mustache half scorched away, pulled free from a flaming lemon russ. He placed a heavy gauntlet on Winthrop's shoulder. It is fitting that two old warriors meet again on the field of battle in the name of the Emperor. Then he turned toward the horde still surging on the far side of the bridge. Not what I expected for our first engagement, but it is fitting the Revenants faced Draugr. Winthrop furrowed his brow. Braylon leaned in, whispering, NihtWyrtha, undead warriors. Dornstall, ever literal, added, but they're not undead. They're infected with a malady. Wolfgar glanced down at him. True, Constable, but not in the epic poem I intend to write about them. He gave a short laugh. At that moment, Elfric, the pale, Gastweird librarian, stepped forward, cloak swirling in the wind. The infected are attempting to cross the river on their own dead. Wolfgar looked to him. Dissuade them. Elfric stepped to the bridge edge and surveyed the green-black waters of the river Taumad. Bodies floated like scum, forming a makeshift bridge across the foul water. He extended a hand. A stasis miasma poured forth, an oily cloud that drifted low and slow. Any creature it touched froze mid-movement, their forms locked in place as if caught in a moment outside time. With a flicker of thought, he teleported half of what he saw a fraction back, a microscopic spatial offset. Then he released them. The upper halves of the horde, still crawling forward, slid away from their lower halves and collapsed into the acidic river with a chorus of hisses and shrieks. Purple ichor leached into the water. Dornstall watched, stunned. Elfric gave no reaction. He simply turned back to Wolfgar, his pale face unreadable. As long as they keep coming from the Medicae, we remain in peril. I also caution against excessive use of the immaterium. The veil is already thinned. Wolfgar nodded grimly. He had seen firsthand what warp incursion looked like, and though the Trinova malady was no demonic outbreak, yet it smelled of that same wrongness. We need to end this quickly. He turned to Winthrop. With the voids up, we cannot bring Elfsip's batteries to bear. Your gracious Archmagos has refused to lower them. Do you have any better ordnance? Before Winthrop could respond, the clomp of synchronized boots echoed through the streets. 3 companies of Grimness Guard rounded the avenue, white and ochre uniforms gleaming, gas masks glinting in the dawn. Each company was backed by a lemon russ. Wolfgar raised his Crozius, signaling them. The companies split, one forming a line along the left riverbank, one to the right, and one advancing onto the bridge itself. An officer jogged forward, gas mask hissing. Lord, he bowed, we've emptied the barracks. This is all the city has left, but we came to aid. Winthrop stepped forward. Marshal Voss took a strike team into the sewers beneath the Sanctum Medicae. Their mission: detonate the reactors beneath its foundations. That should solve our problem. Wolfgar's helm turned. Excellent news. When? Winthrop glanced at his pocket watch. His smile faltered. 10 minutes ago. All eyes turned to the distant, burning mass of the Sanctum Medicae Trinova. Some windows still flickered with flame, but no explosion. Winthrop slowly pocketed the watch. I suspect there may be a problem. The sound of heavy lasfire cut across the bridge, joined by the deeper thud-thud-thud of lemon rust battle cannons. Through the rising cordite smoke and ash, ghostly figures emerged, slick with filth and ichor, half obscured by drifting fumes. Horrorwolf was first, flanked by Cuthhelm and Toonbald. For a moment, they looked like revenants themselves. Horrorwolf brushed slime and body matter from his helm with a slow swipe. Godric and Osric remain at the barricade, he said. Cuthhelm allowed himself a grim smile. I think they're enjoying it. Wolfgar turned toward the riverbank, where fresh lasfire crackled. The infected were gathering again, forming masses that threatened to crawl back over the corpse bridges. We're nearly out of time, he said. He turned back to Horrorwolf. Captain, take Cuthelm and Tunbald. Get into the sewers. Marshal Voss is down there with a team attempting to blow the hive sector reactors. Heorwulf nodded sharply. The others checked weapons. Winthrop stepped forward. The under-tunnels are a maze. You'll need a guide. I'll take you. Before anyone could speak, Dornstall raised his voice, nervous but firm. Sir, you're the highest-ranking officer left in the city, and I know those tunnels. I mapped them in the Emerald Smuggler case. Winthrop turned to object. But Wulfgar cut in. That would be acceptable. Winthrop, take what's left of your arbites and reinforce the bridge. Braylon clicked a fresh mag into her Serpenta and stepped beside Dornstall. I'll cover him. The Void Revenants gave her a nod, all except Cuthelm, who stared a second longer than necessary. But he said nothing. From behind them, the Grimness Guard captain saluted again, stiff, unsure, but respectful. I'll send a section of my men with you. They don't know the tunnels, but they're trained sappers, salt waste veterans. Heorwulf returned the gesture with a warrior's nod, one the officer did not recognize, but saluted anyway, then turned to rally his men. All eyes turned to Calculus Logifexian, who was busy reconfiguring a remaining mechadendrite using parts from a shattered one. I have no training in tunnel warfare, he said plainly, then added, glancing toward the still-firing tanks, but I have considerable skill in armored conveyance. Wulfgar bowed his head slightly. I hadn't counted you in my plan, but I imagine the Grimness 7th would be glad to benefit from your enthusiasm. Fexian nodded and cheerfully made for the battlefront. Tunbald turned to Braylon and handed her his bolt pistol with 2 mags. It's better than a Serpenta against these things, he said by way of explanation. Wulfgar raised his Crozius, its haft catching the light. We'll hold the bridge until your return, he said. Then added more darkly, or until the end. Winthrop passed his flask to Dornstall with a nod, then turned and followed Wulfgar and Fexian toward the barricade. Dornstall glanced at Heorwulf, Braylon, and the Revenants now flanking him. The 8 Grimness Guard troopers were lowering a rusted maintenance ladder into a tunnel access. With a deep breath, he led them to the opening. Cuthelm, taking up the rear, paused once more, eyes lingering on Braylon. There was something unreadable in his gaze. From a short distance, Elfric lowered his stave across his chest, blocking his path just for a moment. The Gastweird librarian, pale and still, addressed the younger psyker. Mind your thoughts, brother. The immaterium surrounds this malady. Stay focused. Remember your training. Cuthelm gave him a slow nod and followed the others into the dark.